On opening night, Von Miller provided the entire country with yet another reminder that he still got it, and he did so in classic Von Miller fashion. The play you're seeing right now resulted in one of Miller's 2 recorded sacks in week 1, and because he played so well on Thursday, now is a great time to unpack not only what makes this play special, but also why Miller will go down as one of the most iconic pass rushers in NFL history. This move that left Rams left tackle Joseph Noteboom absolutely disoriented is known as the ghost technique. It's defined by the pass rusher's ability to duck under the opposing offensive lineman's punch, putting him in a blender as the rusher closes in on the quarterback. Miller didn't create the ghost technique. Speed rushers have been dropping their inside shoulder for as long as quarterbacks have been dropping back, and other pass rushers around the league have picked it up as a result. If you've watched the channel before, you know that every complete pass rusher needs to be able to get to the quarterback in 3 ways: outside, inside, and right up the middle. Right now, I want to focus on the latter. To win right up the middle as a defensive lineman, you need to attack the opposing offensive lineman with power, and most pass rushers do so with a bull rush. They build up speed as they close the gap between themselves and the opposing lineman, then strike with 2 hands to the lineman's chest, favor one side to force the lineman to open their hips, which is also known as attacking half a man, then they disengage and get to the quarterback. There's an old football saying that says, "One arm is longer than 2." And some of the league's defensive linemen take that to heart by using what's known as a stab or long arm to win with power. By engaging with 1 arm rather than 2, the rusher can more effectively test the offensive lineman's balance while preventing the lineman from getting a good grip on their pads. For a guy like Von Miller, who has 33.5-inch arms and constantly faces linemen who have at least a 50-pound advantage over him, the long arm provides a much more daunting threat than that of a bull rush. Miller is one of the many edge rushers who have made the long arm their trademark power rush, and there aren't many pass rushers who execute it as well as he does. On this play from back in 2019 against Tennessee, Miller is going up against Titans left tackle Taylor Lewan. As he's closing the gap, he turns his speed to power, gets his inside hand into Lewan's inside shoulder, drives him back, and disengages to finish the play with a sack. Miller's long arm rush is absolutely lethal, and that's why he's implemented that into his signature move, the ghost technique. Now I want you to watch this play from back in 2018 when the Broncos went up against the Chiefs, because in terms of Miller's style of executing the ghost technique, this might be the best example there is. He's going up against all-pro right tackle Mitchell Schwartz, who at the time was one of the best offensive tackles in the game, and they battled all game long, but on this rep, Schwartz got downright torched. As he closed the gap between himself and Schwartz, Miller threw up his inside arm, which set an alarm off in Schwartz's head. He was sure that a power rush was coming, so Schwartz anchored his feet and went for a 2-handed punch to Miller's upper half. But when Schwartz shot his hands, Miller ducked under the punch, got super low to the ground, and nearly got into the pocket untouched. This is what makes Von Miller's ghost technique so effective. When he flashes that long arm, offensive tackles instinctively drop the anchor to punch. But just like a ghost, the long arm disappears and Miller gets low to the ground to completely avoid the punch. Now, Miller's 2 sacks from Thursday night provide a great example of how he uses these 2 moves to complement each other. About halfway through the first quarter, Miller put Joseph Noteboom on skates with that deadly long arm. The strike with that inside hand was so powerful that he didn't even need to keep driving him back into the pocket. Another punch to Noteboom's chest after that initial strike was enough to get to the quarterback, and this rep sat in the back of Noteboom's head for the rest of the game. In the third quarter, Miller took advantage. Here he's aligned outside of the tight end in a wide 9 technique on the right side of your screen, and after ducking under the tight end's chip, he got into a one-on-one situation with Noteboom. As he closed the gap, Miller flattened his angle to the quarterback and flashed his inside hand. That prompted Noteboom to anchor, and by the time he went in for the punch, Miller had his hands on Matt Stafford. It's taken Von Miller several years to build his arsenal of pass rush moves, and not many rushers in the history of the game have achieved his level of mastery when it comes to sacking quarterbacks. His legacy is already set in stone. No matter what he does in the remainder of his football career, there's a gold jacket waiting for him in Canton. When it's all said and done, Miller will likely have over 150 career sacks and hopefully 3 Super Bowl victories. But what he's done for the game of football goes far beyond the accolades. In June of 2022, Miller hosted his 6th annual Pass Rush Summit. Every year, he gathers many of the league's top pass rushers and offensive linemen to discuss mastering their craft. I'll leave a link to the video of it down in the description, and I highly recommend checking it out because in terms of offensive and defensive line play content, it's just awesome stuff. But anyway, just a few years into these summits, we're starting to see the results. Other rushers around the league are beginning to model their game after Miller, most notably of which is Panthers edge rusher Brian Burns. There isn't a more comparable player to Miller in the league right now than Burns, and while Burns doesn't have Miller's athletic traits, he does have a damn good ghost move. On this play from Carolina's Week 8 matchup with Atlanta in 2021, Burns executed Von Miller's ghost technique perfectly. He flashed his inside hand as he closed the gap on the opposing tackle. Then when the tackle dropped his anchor, Burns ducked under the punch, and the pressure he put on the quarterback led to an interception. Miller and Burns are both speed rushers, but Khalil Mack has added the ghost technique to his arsenal as well as a changeup off of his signature power rush. In the Bears' Week 4 matchup with the Vikings back in 2019, Mack had been attempting power rushes for the entire first half. Then, on the first play of the third quarter, he faked the power rush, drew out the tackle's hands, dipped his inside shoulder, and got to the quarterback. The pass rush is truly an art form, and just like in any art form, influence plays an imperative role. Without Robert Mathis, Von Miller isn't Von Miller as we know him, and without Von Miller, Brian Burns isn't Brian Burns as we know him. As fans, we see Miller as one of the greatest quarterback hunters in the history of the NFL, but his influence on this game goes far beyond getting to the quarterback himself. Pass rushers of all shapes and sizes are adding Miller's signature move to their arsenal. So the next time you see a pass rusher pull off a clean ghost move on their way to the quarterback, remember, Von Miller did it first. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. In addition to the film study, this one took some research, and I'm going to leave a link to an article by Brandon Thorne in the description that goes more in depth into the history of this move. There is no one on the internet who makes better offensive and defensive line content than Brandon, so if you want to learn more about trench play, I would highly recommend checking him out. I know it's been way too long since I posted up here, but I promise I didn't forget about you guys. It's been really tough to find time to make videos that meet the standard of quality that you guys expect, so I can't thank you enough for sticking around and making all of this possible despite my inconsistent upload schedule. But that's all I've got for today. Again, a huge thank you to you guys for continuing to support the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.